Athletor Podcast, J Jaggers. I'm fired up to talk to you, but you're sitting on the floor.
Yeah,
and,
I was just
and
telling
so
Joel.
if you could just give us a tilt and then the reasoning behind it, that'd be great.
Well, I'm hiding behind my bed in my bedroom. I got all three of my kids home, and then my parents are visiting me, me and my wife. So they've been here a few days. So I locked the door, and this is probably the only place I can assure that I won't get bothered.
The things that we go through for peace and quiet at our age.
I locked the door, but they'll probably my youngest will probably barge in at some point.
Oh yeah, my daughter has figured that out pretty quickly. All right. That reminds me of a time where I was coaching at a high school level, and I remember like one of the I don't know why. I felt compelled to cut weight with the kids. Like I would feel really guilty. So I can remember like being like sitting there behind, like having like starving. I hadn't eaten in like 36 hours and like shoving a burrito into my face on the side of my bed. And that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Sneaky. So you were cheating.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I had to be out all day. These kids got to rest. Right. These kids got to go back to the room and chill while I was coaching all day for sure.
Yeah. My dad used to, my dad, he doesn't like, we're not like food people, like in the Jaggers. Right. Like that's never something that's like motivated us. Like, let's go out to this nice meal, you know? And he doesn't eat a lot, and, you know, he's a little skinny guy. And, you know, anytime we'd be going to a tournament, he'd be like, you cut, I cut. I'm not eating until you can eat. And I was like, you don't even eat anyway. Like, it's not that.
So we are food dorks. Like I am a total food dork. So even now, as you kind of get a little bit older, you still like, food doesn't concern you at all?
No, not really. Like I'm not like motivated to go out of my way or like looking for, you know, I mean, I'll look forward to a nice dinner if we're going to a nice place, you know, like I have like an appetite for certain things at certain times, but I would say like 75% of the meals I eat are out of convenience.
They're
just whatever.
Run
like,
me
yeah,
like
at a tournament, I won't eat anything like pretty much all day. Like I'll just go through it.
And what about like, so now you're not in full on competition mode as a coach. What was the last 3 days of nutrition like? Because you still are putting work in on the mats and things like that.
Logan and I were on the road. We actually did a clinic over on the west side of Chicago. So we had to drive 6 hours there, did a night, and then did a morning, and then we drove 6 hours back. So it was a lot of travel. So you know what we were eating. We were stopping for that fast food.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were.
Logan only eats chips. He's unreal.
Really?
Oh my God, chips. Like he can just have like a whole thing of Pringles. Like that'll be his nutrition for the whole day. Just chips. Chip the Ripper.
Not even real chips, just
Pringles. Right. Like not even real calories. You know what I mean? Just like just.
That sounds atrocious. All right. I do happen to love your taste in music, not food.
Oh yeah.
Food. So we'll talk about that.
I'm a lot more serious about that.
I know it. Me too. But let's talk a little bit first. We do got to cover some wrestling. I don't know if people know this, but you're a pretty good wrestler back in your day, and heck of a coach as it is now. One of the things that interested me about you as an athlete was you didn't seem to care about much except for the ones that mattered. Was that by design, or is that that's how much you had to give?
No, I would say that's probably not even like a fair assessment. I mean, I could see how you could get there, but like I always cared, man. Like I wanted to win all the, like I wanted to be undefeated and win a Hodge and stuff like that in college. It's just for whatever reason, I guess I wasn't as one. I was pretty big, so I wrestled 49 my freshman year, and in my last 3 years I went down to 41. So like I tore my ACL at the Big Ten tournament when I was at 149. I had a really good regular season, and then that following year I came back, and it was like I was off ACL reconstruction, and I was dropping down a weight. So, like physically weighing 165 ish, and it wasn't a healthy 165 because I couldn't do anything. Right. I had ACL reconstruction. So, it's just a lot of times when I'd make weight, it would just be, my energy was just zero. I'd go out there, I would try to get what I could in an hour and recover, and it just wasn't sustainable. And it just took me a long time to iron that out. And then once I felt like I didn't yo-yo up as much, and I'd be coming at the week at 6 or 7 over. And then that was like atrophied my body to be just that. And then you kind of took that dehydration component out of the equation. And I was in pretty good shape because I had to do so much to maintain, my weight. That I did know by the end of my career how to time that, so that's one thing where I didn't, like, even my senior year defending national champ, I was like 6-6 at one point, but I just knew, like, I didn't get discouraged because I knew what that variable was. And that once I pulled it out, I would be all right. So it wasn't like a lack of want or a lack of focus or anything like that. It was more physical, if that makes sense.
No, it makes all the sense in the world, because it just took time to shrink your body.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah. And in hindsight, I probably could have done more in the summer months to come in September and be 53 and in shape. Right. But who knows? I mean, maybe I would have sputtered out and peaked in January. Like, I don't know. Like, I lived my life, kind of happily and freely in the summer, and then obviously wrestled and stuff, and lifted. But once it came time to get like super locked in around September, it took me a while. It took me till probably January to feel right.
Okay. So then you're going to have to forgive my ignorance then. So if it wasn't a if it wasn't a full-on decision, right? It was just more of a barrier of time. If that was the case, did you consider that you actually had an edge then, like a mental edge going into the postseason?
Yeah. Well, I would say this. I would say there's two-parted. So obviously there was the physical part. I will agree with you in how I felt like I had a really stronghold on the mental approach towards championship season. Like just the heightened sense of, I don't know, the heightened sense of importance wasn't something that I shrunk to. I always felt like my whole life I rose to, if that makes sense. So I did feel a little more like in flow state the higher the stakes were, like the more serious. So like that might have even been, unbeknownst to me. But now as I reflect back and I can remember, I definitely feel like I knew how to lock in a little better. And obviously from the mental side, if you had to wrestle somebody that you wrestled in December at the Cliff Keen, and you know what I mean, it was tight or whatever, or you lost, and you're like, that they don't even, this is going to be a totally different version, like one that's not going to get.
You felt that every time.
Right. Well, towards like Big Tens and nationals.
That's
what do you
awesome.
think?
That's
what do you
awesome.
think kind of got your head ready for wrestling in big matches like that? Is it something where you had a lot of experience as a kid, or just something you're born with?
Yeah, I don't know. I just always, I always liked, like the bigger the crowd and the more people, like the more eyes that were on me, I just felt like a bigger duty to like perform well. And I didn't I definitely I was nervous. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'd throw up at the nationals, like before the quarterfinals, like to hear the national anthem and Sandy Stevens is doing that countdown and that play, your head's shaking when she hits one. I would be nervous, but I don't know. I guess and I worked really hard. So when you put in a lot of work and invest a lot of time and you believe, because I always did believe in my skills. I think it was just like a perfect like recipe for success for what I did.
Yeah.
And who
You
knows?
said
I,
you
I like
had
I don't just what I did. Like I don't know if it was
no.
the right way, the
That's
wrong
all
way.
we're
whatever.
asking, dude. So that's
I probably could have done it better, and been better.
yeah.
Knowing
You
what I
say
know
that.
now, but it is what it is.
No, I don't think so. I think getting up to 165 in the summer a lot. Like, so am I going to tell my son to gain 25 pounds over his competition weight when he's not in training, like not in active training camp? No,
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
But also there's something to be said for the reprieve that you
Right.
give yourself to
100%.
enjoy things, not
Right.
like that. So it's funny, man. Like I'm working on this documentary, and it's based on addiction
Mhm.
and how addiction is prevalent in wrestling and how it relates. And the reason I bring it up is because we as a culture are so disciplined for an extended period of time that if
When
we
that
don't,
goes away.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, when that goes away, boy, oh boy, when that goes away and you don't have that rigidity,
Mhm.
boy, does that, it can, and oftentimes does, turn ugly soon and quick. So yeah, no, I think you say you could have done it better. Yeah, maybe,
Right.
but also could have gone way worse. Could have
Yeah, and
gone way worse.
I guess and I don't try to ever pretend that like a certain. I just think there's so many ways to do things, right? So I would never like come on and be like this is the way. Like now obviously I have some guiding principles that I'll tell my son or my daughter about wrestling or on things you should do. But I think there's a lot of variables and a lot of different ways to do it. I think the best advice I can you just know yourself, right? Like I needed that reprieve. Like that's a great word. I needed that reprieve after, in the summer months to live. And it wasn't like I was getting up to 165 wasn't like being a slob. Like I'm a big guy. Like I'm not actually now. Now I told you about my nutrition now. So now I've actually shrunk. I weigh around 160. But when you're 21 years old and you're
And you're
eating
working
what
out
you want
twice a
to eat
day.
and working out, you're lifting, I was pretty tall and whatnot. I could fill out, and even that year I wrestled 49. I was not small, like by any means. Like I was fine. So you just got to know yourself, right, and know what your timing is. And I think like Sasso's a guy like that for us now. Currently, does a really good job of. He can get big in the summer, but he knows what to do, and he can maybe take a head scratcher in November. But he gets it. He understands when to do it and how long it's going to take him and stuff like that.
How do you balance knowing yourself and being able to step away and enjoy yourself and maybe not be fully on top of your weight year round, but also balancing that with maybe that's not with what your coach views as the best course of action?
Well, I think a good coach is going to have some guidelines and guiding principles, but also you got to know your athletes, and the coach Ryan and Coach Roselli and Coach Heskett and Rollins, who they were my staff that coached me my last 3 years. They understood me as well as I think I understood myself. So they kind of got the process. Obviously there would be some frustration if I wasn't performing it the way that they felt I was capable of, and frustration on my end, frustration on theirs. But I think when you can keep the big picture in mind and you can be on the same page, that it's healthy.
Your kids wrestle? Your children wrestle?
Yeah. So I have a 10-year-old son, and then I have 2 girls, 8 and 5. My 10-year-old and my 8-year-old wrestle, and my 5-year-old will probably get started here soon. Maybe this fall a little bit.
Do you and this is anecdotal. I have no evidence other than just looking at it over the course of what is now almost 40 years of wrestling. Do you think that high-level coaches' kids are sticking around the sport longer than they used to?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to. I mean, I know a lot of a lot of friends that I talk to that are my wrestling friends, other staffs and stuff, whose kids wrestle. It's always something that I like to talk to them about, because I can kind of out on my kids wrestling, So I like Coach Agam and we always chat about
Dude,
it.
his kid's a hammer. His
Yeah,
kid's a friggin' hammer.
So we have a good time talking about it, and I know Tervel's kids are getting into it, and see Reese's son. So yeah, I just think it's what we know, right? Like, I mean, anything like I'm not a master of wrestling, but it's the thing in my life that I have mastered the most. And like,
Sure.
there's nothing else that I'm as good at as wrestling.
Right.
Nothing, I don't know as much about politics or, science or anything like that as I know about wrestling. So obviously I'm going to try to share that with my kids. But I would like you, I would, I don't know. I'd be interested to see how many people I feel like it's starting to get kind of fun where there's like father son combos, like in the sport, like, Pars and Mondays, and it's kind of cool.
I think it's always kind of been there. I'm pretty sure it's always kind of been there, but I think that the new age of wrestling coach, especially high level wrestling coach, has kind of ushered in a far more empathetic dad in the sport, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know Coach Gable had like all girls, and girls wrestling wasn't quite as prevalent as it is now, but something tells me that, like, if he just kind of left if he had sons and he left them to their own devices, I don't know that they would have competed in the sport for a whole lot, a long time. And I think what's going on now is you're seeing guys like Eggum, who is full on, like, he's into it.
Yeah.
But he's into it as a dad. And that's super cool. Like I talked to Brandon and he's like, yeah, he has great club coaches. I'm like, yeah, he does. You're right. And it's really interesting to me to see how it's kind of evolved and how these coaches are taking more of a backseat and watching more.
Yeah, I can only speak to kind of my experience with my kids. My son didn't love wrestling when I was pulling him away from the iPad or playing with his sisters when he was 6 years old on a rainy Tuesday in January, or snowing. But he didn't really have a choice, and I'm fine saying, I tell people all the time, I'm like, he's 6. He doesn't know what he wants. You know what I mean? If I left it up to him, we'd have ice cream for dinner every night. So I'm like, I'm going to make him keep wrestling. Now, if when he gets in the 12 or 13 range, if he's like, hey, listen, I'm so passionate about baseball, that's where I want to spend my time, I'm not in love with wrestling, then we'll have that conversation. But 7, 8, 9, I'm like, you're going to be exposed to wrestling. You're going to go to wrestling. You're small. That's the other thing. You're really small. So just keep going, and hope. Who knows what that hook set is going to be? All right. Is it going to be you go to one tournament out of town, stay in a hotel, run around with your buddies, and then he's like, boom, I love wrestling now. Or you win a tournament and you get a cool trophy, and he's like, oh my God, now I love it. So my son in particular, my daughter just loves it. Like, she was the one that was begging to go, and that was more so probably out of her love for my son. They're like really close, and they're like best friends, and she just wanted to go where he was going, and he was going to wrestling, so her way to be around him was to go to wrestling. And when I started bringing her, I saw both of their loves shot up for it, even his. So now he does like wrestling a lot, and because I made him keep going.
Do you notice anything other than, maybe winning a tournament or going on a trip that helped to really kind of like solidify their enjoyment of the sport?
Camaraderie. I think that's the big. I mean, I know that was the hook set for me. You know, it was a long time ago. Try to remember, but 30 years ago, just the people and new friends and getting to hang around them, because you know, even you go to a tournament, obviously those 4.5 minutes of your match are serious, that warm up serious, but there is a lot of downtime that is kind of fun, where you joke around with your friends, and I think that camaraderie socially is cool.
Mm. All right, let's shift gears. NIL. I am so on the fence. I don't know what to think of it yet. A part of me, you know, over the last, I don't know, 20 years, probably in one way or another, kind of thought that it was probably a good thing for college kids to be paid for what they do and how they do it. But as I'm looking at it, man, it's a really tricky endeavor. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on NIL and the state of college athletics. Maybe more specifically wrestling, but just athletics in general, if it's okay.
Yeah, I think I think the introduction of it was had like good meaning, right? Yeah, like it was so that kid could capitalize on what his fair market value was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can get paid if somebody's willing to pay a kid $1,200 to do a clinic, then you know that's cool. If some corporation wants somebody to be their brand ambassador, and he otherwise couldn't have because of his connection to the university, and now he can, that's cool. And I think that was the root of the introduction of it, and then just how lax the rules are around it. It's pretty much, we know what it's turned into. You know, we know what it's turned into. It's it's just free agency.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't even know if I hate that or not. I know that
I know that you. I'm going to speak for you right now, and I'm going to do it because I know you and I love you. It feels icky. It feels icky right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely does. Like, I mean, but you know, that's the 37-year-old coach of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 19-year-old returning All-American might have loved it. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's just tough. I try not to get, to be honest, I try not to get too like caught up in what, you know, there a lot of people are vocal about it. I'm not that way. I'm kind of just like, hey, whatever the rule set is, like we're going to conform. And like even the rules with the takedowns and stuff like that. Like I probably have some strong opinions, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to lose sleep over something that little mini me, the assistant coach at Ohio State, isn't going to change, no matter how valid I think my thought process around it might be. It's not going to change. Let me know what the rule set is, and we'll operate within it, and we'll figure out.
Train my kids to do that. I remember the leg clinch. Remember the leg clinch and how awful it was?
Oh,
I don't give a shit.
Pulling red and blue balls out of a Crown Royal bag.
It was ridiculous. It was nonsense. You know, looking back on it, I can say that was the darkest age of freestyle wrestling that I've ever seen or heard of. But at the time, someone would ask my opinion on it. I'm like, it doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. I have to get my athletes to defend a leg clinch, which was very difficult. And I also have to get my athletes to score when they draw the correct ball. Yeah. So,
and you keep in mind, like, hey, both sides are operating under the same rule set. So it's like you're usually more mad about something when you weren't the benefactor of it. Right? Like, I could be, really upset about NIL right now because, Michigan got a lot of transfers this year. I got 4 guys from Northwestern. I can be up in arms about it. We had the same opportunity to go after those athletes too. So what can I really, you know what I mean? Like, what can I really say? So I always keep that in mind, where it's like, like, as long as we're all operating under the same rule set. So don't be a whiner that much.
Maybe not in a sense of whining, but if you could change one thing about the current NIL situation, what would you change?
I would just like there to make sure that it was a little cleaner from the side of, like, listen, the kid that graduates from a university and then decides to enter the portal for his last year for a change of scenery and to maybe capitalize on what, he can earn, like, that's cool. But anybody, and I don't even think coaches do it. I think people put out feelers, like, I respect all of our coaches. I think we all try to operate like with integrity, but enticing somebody to go to the portal, like, if there was a way to police that, which I don't know if there would be, but I would say that's probably the part. But kid that enters portal and then takes 4 visits and, like, looks at all options, like, that's not that different than what we've been doing, right? It's the kid that enters the portal and knows where he's going in 35 minutes. It's like, well, how'd you know that?
That seems convenient. Well, I think because of the COVID year, I think a lot of that stuff is going to level out here pretty soon.
I do too.
Once those 6-7 year guys are able to kind of make their way through the system, I think a lot of that will level out. And I think you're going to also see some of these numbers that I don't know are true. I've not seen one, check receipt, and I've certainly not seen any contracts, but I hear some of the numbers and they are hefty. And I think you're going to see some of that stuff level out as well, because there isn't going to be as many of those kids that have that graduation year and then at least one more year of eligibility left. So that is, I think, good news. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I really try not to be, like, strong opinioned on it. I just try to operate and control what we can. I mean, we weren't very active in the portal. We like our roster, and I think we kind of want to do it with our guys. Like I have a relationship with the guy. Like for you got a guy who was 2-2 at the Nationals, and there's a guy who hits the portal and he was 7th, and it's like there might be some interest there, but I just for that whatever upgrade, for lack of a better term, maybe a couple more points, it's like we kind of like got down the road where we're like, let's just be the team that has no transfers. Let's just be that team. Let's just do it with our people, and we looked at some guys, but once we got far down the road, we were like, let's almost go on purpose oppo and be the team that has no transfers.
That's really tough, Jay. That's really not easy.
It is, but not if your roster is good. And
that's fair too. That's fair too. But just, you are Ohio State University. There is an expectation for national titles, right? Like, it's easy to say when Northwestern has never won a national title, right? Ohio State has, and you're in the mix, and it's really, really hard to.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're never going to.
No, I understand.
This year has been chaos, right?
Yeah.
This year, it's like we just didn't feel the need to do that. Like, with what we have, we're comfortable with what we have, and then when it got down to the end and there was a kid or two, and we were like, well, we could just stand pat. Let's stand pat. Let's be the team that has no transfers.
Has NIL created a situation where you're having to re-recruit kids that are already on your team?
Can you say that one more time?
Has NIL created a situation where you guys are now having to re-recruit kids that are already on your team and to keep them there at Ohio State?
That's a great question, and we are so blessed that we have not been in that situation. Art, I'm telling you, it sounds like, you know, I'm gassing our squad up or whatever, but our relationships are so strong. Like, Sammy Sasso could have easily come. He just graduated, right? He's gonna start academically his certificate program to maintain his last year of eligibility. All right. He could have easily come to the office and been like, hey, I'm seeing some numbers. What are you gonna do for me? He never did that. You know, it just, and I'm really proud of that, to be honest with you. Like, I think it speaks to our guys. They don't want to hold us hostage. They want to be taken care of fairly, and we're always going to do that. But no, we haven't had to re-recruit anybody to keep them on our roster, and that's probably the thing that I'm probably the most proud of about our program right now.
You should be, because Sasso, that does not surprise me at all about Sasso.
Right.
It doesn't. I've known the kid since he was very young, and he's as loyal as it gets. Well,
right.
How do you, because I know, having been around your program a little bit, I know that there are recruits that you have, high level recruits that you have passed on, and that is a polite way of saying you've shown them the door. How do you, as a staff, what is like, is there like a checklist that you guys go through when you're looking at recruits that kind of ends up with loyalty? Is there certain character traits? Is there certain things that they do?
No, I don't think we run them through like a rubric and spit out a score and it's like, oh shoot, he's on the cusp. He's a 19, and you know, we only take 20s, you know. I just think we do a good job of I don't know, like being just with our guys and pretty normal. We're really we're a very approachable staff, even from like our parents. Like, they can reach out to us at any time, and we don't try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or trick them or anything like that. And the other thing is, like, I don't think we don't take ourselves that seriously. I mean, you've hung around, you know, us, and you know, sometimes the best way to get past the loss is we just make fun of it, like, immediately, like, you know, like Hoffman has a tough loss, and we all start clowning it a little bit, and then we move past it, you know. And I think and then the credit goes to our athletes, because, you know, our culture is good, and everybody says their culture is good, but our culture is good from the standpoint of where there's never any like I never have to question like somebody's desire, at least for the last few years, you know, like question anybody's desire to want to be good. Now, they're going to make mistakes in their wrestling matches, right? Turn this way when you could have done this way. You know, why'd you cut him with 7 seconds left? You know, like, why'd you let him out? Stuff like that. But when you know that they all want to win really bad, and they're doing the right things to try to win and give themselves the best chance, but then they just don't, then you coach it a little different. Like, you don't blow your lid. You know what I'm saying? You blow your lid, and they're like, oh, and then there's a disconnect because they feel like you don't understand what they were really trying to do. And it's like, I think we all operate under the assumption, the athletes operate under the assumption that anything that we say or do is going to be to put our team in a position to win. I operate under the assumption they're doing everything in their power to win. And that way, when it doesn't work out, we can move past it pretty quick. So I think that's kind of the healthiest thing. And then we try to have a lot of fun and good relationships. And that was this year was probably the funnest year I've had in a while.
Why?
Just a collection of individuals who I think all subscribe to that ideology that I just kind of harped on.
How do you build that culture? Is that something where the kids already have that as they get there, or is it something where you guys are actively doing things to really, you know, embrace and enforce kind of that mindset?
I think it's just the sum of all the parts, and I think our staff dynamic is really cool. You know, like no one's ever been mad at Logan Stieber. Like even if he's got to like drop the hammer down, you know, like he's like the academic enforcer guy. I'll be like, you know, like whatever, if it's study table or something, it's like, hey, you got to get on him, Logan. even if he's going to like yell at you, he does it in that way where he's got that little baby face, and you can never get mad at him. So he's like a perfect bad cop because the message gets there, but you never harbor resentment. I'm a little more, like, I don't know, brash, like I can be a little, like,
let's say direct.
pissed off.
I'd say direct.
Yeah. And, but like I said, I moved past it. So if I can yell at someone, and like 15 minutes later into practice, I'm like, we good? We're going to go now? Let's go. And I think, when you all just understand everybody's, that's what I've had to get. I've gotten better at, like from when I was 25 to when I'm 37 as a coach, is I can't always make people conform to the way that I think things should be, and I'm going to be a little more liquid. And I think that's kind of how I've the approach I've taken, and it makes it more fun.
Sure. How do you? I show your national title match to a lot of my athletes that I don't find that I have to do it as much here in California as I did in Texas. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned in just physical toughness and having a broken ankle and finishing up a match because you can. I know you are not the type of person to be like, look at me, but do you know the type of impact that watching someone like you who wasn't the 1 seed, wasn't undefeated, wasn't the offensive dynamo that some athletes were even in the bracket, and watching you gut through a broken ankle and a national title? Do you understand the impact that that's had on the sport and some of the younger athletes?
I mean, that's always what like gets referenced when I'm at a camp or something, or like I'm, when I moved into my neighborhood and people found out I was the Ohio State wrestling coach, and they Google you and they were like, dude, I watched the match. I kind of hate it because it's like, I wish it didn't happen, even though it's kind of cool, adds to the legacy, whatever. I don't really think I have one. But it was the least heroic thing ever. Like I was up 5-1 with, I think it was like 16 seconds left. Like I was kind of chilling, to be honest. Now it hurt.
Yeah,
but it was
he
like,
looked up he knew there was 16 seconds left too.
Yeah. And it was your teammate. You have to ask me if he did it on purpose.
For sure, he snapped his
I don't know.
on purpose.
Yeah, you know what? I think I've told this story before, but I was like, I used to like lay in bed and like visualize every single possible outcome of like, I wrestled the national tournament in my head, man, every night, multiple times a night. Like, and I don't even know if I was like doing it from like a visual, like I was like practicing visualization, right? It was more so I was just thinking about it and just thinking about wrestling. And I wrestled that bracket so many times. And every time I wrestled at night, I had some combination of I had to beat Russell, Griffin, Mendez. The order always mixed up. I was like, hey, what if you're the, like, what if they're the 2 seed, the 3, whatever. So I always like wrestled it in my head. And I would do all these different scenarios in my head. Like you're down by 1 with 20 seconds left. And and then you just visualize like that elation moment where you won the nationals. And, that was one of them I went through, was you get hurt at the end. So when it happened, it didn't like throw me. Like it didn't like throw me for a loop, like into panic. I almost checked me into like, you've been here. You've been here in your daydreams. So, and like I said, with a good cushion score wise, it wasn't that cool. But Logan and I like to joke that the legend grows and that I heard it in the warm-ups. So we just tell the younger generation, like I did it during getting on the bus on the way there and gutted through the whole thing. But honestly, it was 16 seconds. It wasn't that cool.
It's still pretty cool. I mean, like it's especially.
I wish I didn't scream so loud. I kind of like soft, a little soft. But that thing hurt. He I didn't end up breaking it either. I just tore a bunch of ligaments. But
Was that all?
yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I wish like back then, like iPhones were around, I would have like snapped some pictures of it the next day. And then I could have like clout chased and put that on Instagram. That would have been dope. There's like no evidence. I think I had like a sidekick at the time, and you had to like put the camera in it. And it's like all like fuzzy, but it was pretty. It was a good one.
3 newest songs on your playlist, on your daily playlist.
Oh man,
Joel
that's
Jaggers
been
and
a-
I geek out about country
Yeah.
music quite a bit, so you're gonna have to
Country
hold
music. Oh no.
I'm deep into it. I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah,
I've just been listening to Jason Isbell's new record a lot, Weather Vanes.
yeah.
So I've been listening to that, and then kind of like my favorite artist is right now, probably Justin Townes Earl. Rest in peace. So anything by him, and kind of cool. Isbell has a song on his album about his relationship with Justin Townes Earl. So it's kind of like my current favorite. Yeah. It's like this good intersection of my favorite guy ever, and then my current favorite, and they're talking about each other. So that's a cool song. So I've been listening.
I like.
Is
that like a country rap battle?
Yeah.
No. Michael fill you in.
No,
that's all I do now, man. I used to be different. I used to dress fancy and I was a little bit of a look at me guy.
Yeah.
Back in my younger days of coaching, but now I just enjoyed the simpler things and fishing and listening to music, going to shows and hanging with my family and camaraderie with my friends and coaching wrestling. And that's about it.
You got to get us a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, I'm on Apple Music, but I will. Mike, you should come out. You should come out to. I have a festival in my backyard. I had the first annual a couple weeks ago. I know.
I got to do it. I think next year I will. You told me about it.
About 150 people in the backyard, a stage wheeled in. So
I love it. I freaking love it.
That's like I still have corded headphones. I'll pay an artist to come do a home show in my backyard. So that's where I invest my money.
I can't argue with it, man. I'm not hating it at all. By the way, Zach Bryan is playing Petco December 30th.
I'm going out to Montana for Under the Big Sky Festival.
Really?
Yeah, around my birthday. So in the middle of July, and he'll be there as well. So I saw him in a room 2 years ago with maybe 1,000 people. So his rise has been pretty
incredible. He's playing stadiums now. Like he's playing not just amphitheaters, stadiums.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Yeah, I have a passion for that. I like seeing people in a 100 person room.
Yeah.
Shane Smith and the Saints, they've kind of become friends of ours, and he's always wearing the Ohio State wrestling shirt. We gave it to him when he came to town. We saw him at a place called Roomba, 100 people on the tour bus hanging with them, and now they sold out Red Rocks. So, I like kind of being the gatekeeper and finding these guys.
Love it. All right, Joel, you got anything else before we let Mr. Jaggers go back to his family?
Yeah. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything about wrestling, what would you change?
Oh my God. Can I get back to you? I like to think. I don't like fire from the hip. If I could change anything. Oh, here's an easy one. 10 Olympic weight classes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just think there's too much talent for 6. It's just
there's too much talent for 6, but I don't know that 10.
Just to keep it consistent though with the world championships, like I think that would be
well. That's the whole thing. I don't know that we need 10 weight classes. Is what I'm saying.
There'd be more, but the more opportunities, the better. Might keep people in wrestling longer. I don't know.
That's fair. I just don't like. First of all, I don't know that, barring certain countries, I don't know that we need a 57K. I think it should be a little bit heavier, and we can stack up some more in the middle, and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's here nor there. We don't get to make those decisions. That is a great one though. We haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah.
That
was an easy one. That won't get me in trouble.
I bet you there's a couple that I can think of that'll get you in trouble. J Jaggers, you're the absolute best, man. You're one of my favorite human beings in this sport. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will chat with you next time. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Later, brother.